Hello, everyone. My name is Zoe Psykowski, and welcome back to my motivational YouTube channel, Zoe's Two Dots on Life. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about the connections between self-development and fitness. And I have a very special guest I would like to introduce as well. His name is Lee Davidson. He is the founder of Premium Positivity. And I met him actually when I started my YouTube journey back in May. It was May. And he really inspired me since the beginning. So I'm so excited to have him on today to just talk about the ways that fitness and self-development connect, because Lee really does it all. And I'm going to let him kind of talk about all the things that he's involved with right now. So
yeah, you're way too kind, Zoe. You're way too kind. So I guess my channel, my page, so I've got kind of an Instagram page that I focus on, and then my YouTube channel. And me and Zoe were kind of talking before this about kind of just how important it is to have a community of like-minded people as well. And I think that's the one thing that I've learned over this journey, is that actually having a group of good people that you kind of know and you connect with, especially when you're a small YouTuber, especially when you're kind of a small brand or Instagram page, is kind of having those connections. So it's kind of great that we can kind of share my followers with yours and your followers with mine, because we all obviously have the same connections and things. And this topic today around sports and physical activity and kind of how that translates along to your mindset as well is so important. So the things that I kind of do in my life in terms of sport is predominantly at the moment just general weight training and that kind of thing. In the past, I did football and some boxing and martial arts, and that kind of taught me all sorts of things about discipline and the importance. But one thing that I've kind of unfortunately had throughout this whole time is I've got really bad eyesight. So really incredibly bad eyesight in my left eye and my right eye. So to the point where I had an operation when I was younger. So that stopped me from doing a lot of the things that I wanted to do. I've always been quite a driven person. I've always wanted to achieve things. I wanted to go further with my boxing and my football, but I was held back by my eyesight. So I think one of the things I wanted to start off with really is just how you should never let anything hold you back from achieving what you want to achieve. So yes, I'm never going to be a pro footballer. I'm never going to be a pro boxer, but I've kind of translated all of the challenge that I've had into other areas of my life, and I've focused on I'm going to get myself fit and healthy in terms of my physical body, and that then translated over to I want to now improve my mindset. And that's kind of how all of this premium positivity stuff began, really.
yeah, that is a crazy journey. And it's really neat to hear how all of those things connect with each other when you think that they're totally separate things. Why would music connect to self-development, which connects to fitness, and just how the challenge really shaped you into who you are today, since you're so motivated, maybe you wouldn't have been if you didn't have that obstacle you had to overcome in the beginning. So for me, my self-development journey literally all just began because of the sport of tennis. Because when you walk on that tennis court, it's all about what you're telling yourself, positive self-talk. If I'm telling myself don't hit the ball in the net, then I'm probably going to hit it right in the net, because that's where my focus is. But there's just the connection there between how it can improve your life too, not just your boxing game or your tennis game or whatever it is. So
definitely,
well, I had a couple of questions, I think that would spark some great conversation. So, when was it that you realized that connection in your life between sports and self-development?
So really good question. So for me, it was all my karate grades. So when I was younger, I started getting into karate. It was kind of the first martial art I really kind of delved into. And the thing that karate taught me is that at the start, it was quite easy. So because you've got so much to learn, you start off at the very basics. And what I started to learn over time was actually when I get to the higher belts, it's not just what I do in the lessons that matters anymore. It's actually the time that I invest outside of those lessons. So I really had to, sacrifice a lot of the time that I had at home, like with my friends. I couldn't play as many video games anymore. I had to focus on actually practicing that craft. So that then, and I'm really lucky that I found that at a young age, because for me, like, this kind of talk about delayed gratification and things like that, sacrificing your now for who you want to be in the future is what really drives me in not just sport and fitness, but also in other areas of my life. So I really try to focus and think to myself, what do I want to be in the future? What do I see myself as in the future? And really try to like visualize what I want my life to look like. And then I try to do as much as I can, like today, to make sure that in 5 or 10 years' time, I am that person, like I become that person.
That's such a great like outlook. And I think that since you started sports like at that young age, that's why sounds like it's carried over like to where you are right now in your life. And I think that applies to so many different people when it comes to sports as well. Like, I can relate with you. You have to spend so many hours to, make that varsity team or like whatever sport you're in high school or college. Like for tennis, my life was literally just school, tennis, sleep, school, tennis, sleep. Like there wasn't time for anything else in between. And it's hard though for some people because, they want that in the moment, like fun and pleasure and satisfaction. But you're working towards like that greater goal of like who you want to become. So, what advice do you have for people who are very like present minded and who, want to try to like change to become more like future focused?
Yeah, I think for me, the most important thing, because like you say, like everybody's so different and some people just struggle with it more than others. Some of us are just a bit more naturally diligent at things. Just like some people are a bit more chatty than people naturally. It's just kind of some people, I've always been someone that's I find it easy to be quite conscientious about things, but other people struggle to kind of sit down and read a book for an hour. It's just not in their nature. So I think the best thing you can really do is to actually like set yourself some goals. And I think the first ever video that I made on my channel was how to effectively like set goals for yourself. So you basically set a goal, don't like overwhelm yourself by doing like 20 different things a year. What I do is try to like pick like between 3 and 5 things that I really want to achieve. And then I basically have habits that I do each day to get towards them. So I know there's a habit that I've got at the moment where I have to walk up a particular hill where I live and then do this particular route, and I do it every single day. And because we're in lockdown in the UK, we can only walk at the moment and go outside with like family members in our household. So me and my mom have been going like every single night, walking this entire route. It takes about an hour and 20 minutes. And there's no reason that we have to do it every day. We're not bound to do it, but we've said to ourselves, we're doing this every single day for the next year for our health and fitness. And that's the goal. It's to we're going to run that eventually. But for now, we're just saying, look, let's walk it. And those little habits eventually over time, we're already noticing, my mom's lost some weight already. I feel like I've kind of increased my fitness. We're not puffing as much up the hill anymore and just all that kind of stuff. And it's all like just the benefits that you can have by just changing that one like tiny thing a day and just how much it pays off in the future.
Yeah, because like in the moment, it's like, is this really making a big difference? Like I have an hour, I can go walk outside or I can go, watch a movie, but every single day, if you're doing it, like it's going to add up to a bigger change. Like, I think you can apply that to your sports world, but then also even like think about reading a book. Like I've been sticking to reading 1 chapter every single morning and I'm like, what's the point? It's only like, 10 pages, but I've gone through like a couple of books that I probably wouldn't have gone through if I didn't stick to reading like 1, page a day. So it's cool to see like the effect of the compound,
Absolutely.
So, well, another question I have too is, are there other ways that you've seen sports influence the self-development, like specific aspect of your life?
Yeah. In so many ways, I think sports kind of links into everything, because it's kind of that like it's your mind is, I kind of treat my mind as a bit of a muscle in that respect. So you kind of think, okay, if I want to increase my strength in the gym, I'm going to have to gradually increase the weight that I'm lifting and get stronger. In the same way, it's kind of like your mind. You start off at a certain level and you need to slowly like build up your kind of tolerance to things, your emotional resilience to things. That's the one thing that I found that a lot of people like our age are struggling with at the moment. I think there's kind of a lot of people that really struggle with their emotional resilience. So in careers and stuff, they might have a manager or somebody that's difficult for them to have to deal with, and they find it very difficult to kind of cope with that emotionally. People take a lot of like emotional burden on, and I think one thing that I've found that sport has really helped me to do is to kind of focus my mind onto areas where otherwise my mind would just stray away from. So when I'm in the gym, when I'm lifting weights, I'm just like focusing on each rep. I'm focusing on each rep I'm doing. I'm like, okay, this is going to get me to where I want to be. And it's kind of like I translate that then over when I'm in a difficult situation with somebody in, say, business, where I'm talking to somebody and we disagree on a particular point or something. It's important like that you can focus your mind and not allow yourself to kind of get emotionally engulfed by the conversation. And I really think that there's a lot of benefit to people just, even if you're not like into sport, just getting into some kind of like disciplined fitness. So whether that is just going to the gym, whether it is just doing like some hit sessions at home, whether it is just buying some weights and kind of just working out, I think it's just the discipline of getting into a routine and also having that routine like the same at exactly the same point in the day. So I don't know about you, but I find it really hard to change my routine up. So if I'm doing gym, I always do mine in the evening, but if I do it in the morning, I can do it for like a couple of days, but then eventually I kind of just fall off of track because it messes up my like schedule completely. So in the latest book that I read, I don't know if you've read that the Jay Shetty book, the latest one, Think Like a Monk.
I don't think I have, no.
It's so, because you were saying about reading like books and stuff, this book is insanely good, and it kind of talks about that whole concept of having incredible like discipline for your mind, and just how much that these monks can kind of do just by using their minds, in terms of like ignoring like pain and things like that. And I was like, if a human mind can like sit on like a bed of nails and not feel like any pain, I was like, I am definitely capable of going up to the gym and getting myself a decent body.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to add that book to my list. You have to send me it after this.
Yeah.
But that's so, I like that perspective, because we treat our bodies like muscles, like we go to the gym to work them, but we don't think how it's also kind of strengthening our minds too, like with the discipline aspect of it. Like, I'm kind of the opposite of you. My routine was in the morning for working out. That's, I feel like, my best time, just because then, like, I feel energized, during the rest of the day. Yeah. But I think you could really pick whatever time like works for you. Everyone's different. But for me, like, I took this class called web jogging in college. Okay, it was online jogging, but we had to go out and like run on our own and submit reports for it. And like the goal of the class was like every week you would like increase like running by a certain mile or 2 miles each week. And like I was so used to only running like 2 miles, like that was my max. And I had to like really discipline myself to stay like consistent, like 3 days a week with it. And then it was just cool to see like over time how I progressed, but I had to like force my mind to be like, oh, it's okay to see a 4-mile run, like I can do that, like it is possible. It's just what I was like telling myself at the time, I feel like was holding me back from actually doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And also it's all about kind of, you just hit plateaus sometimes. Like I'm sure in like your tennis career so far, you kind of hit those plateaus where you're just like, I was improving so much, I was doing so well, you have so many good days, and then all of a sudden you just have like a bad few games or a bad month of just playing, or you just feel unfit, maybe you have an injury, all that kind of stuff. And I think one thing that this has taught me in sport is that yes, we can have injuries, we can have disabilities and all that kind of stuff, but it should never like hold you back from what you're actually capable of. And what really hurts people these days is that they compare themselves so much to other people, And we're always like constantly seeing people now on Instagram and on TV, and these are like the best people in the world. Like in tennis, like the people you're watching are probably like the top, 0.0001% of the population playing tennis. And we can just see that now. We can just log on, and the first video we'll see is on that. So no wonder like people feel so disheartened about themselves. It's because they're just comparing themselves constantly to people that are just like the elite of the elite. So I think people just need to give themselves a bit more slack with things, and just be a bit more understanding to yourself, and to treat yourself as more of a friend than a disappointment.
I like that. Yeah. No, I've done that so many times. It's like a tennis video comes up, I'm like, well, my forehand isn't that good. Like, I need to get to work, But, and I feel like that is too, even with like, speaking as well. Like I go on and I see like a Tony Robbins video come on. I'm like, oh, I'm so bad at speaking. I'm like, why am I comparing myself to someone like that? So yeah, everyone's on their own journeys, and you just got to stay focused on it. So
yeah.
So I'm also curious to hear like other areas it has applied to other than fitness, like investment or, areas like that, music.
Yeah, so obviously investing. So investing is something that I'm going to be bringing more into my channel lately, because I think at the moment a lot of people are worried about what the pandemic means for them in terms of their money and that kind of thing, and their job. So I want to kind of bring that into what I do as on Premium Positivity. But absolutely, sport, we've kind of discussed around that whole notion of getting slightly better each day. We all start as beginners, and eventually, these people that you're saying have the amazing forehand, these are people that started off with a terrible forehand, and we're just practicing it day in, day out. So the same with investing for me. Like, God, the amount of mistakes I've made in investing, but because I actually, watched other people, I learned from other people. I, like yourself, I read books, I watched videos, and eventually I got to the point where I was seeing the impact of compound interest on, my money. And it's just, it's so weird how like it all ties into one. It's like everything that I've learned from my sports careers to my business to investing to my music and like my passions, all of it is just, it's the same blueprint. Like it's the same blueprint, and that's why so many people, like, if they're good at one thing, they're likely to be good at more than one thing, because it's not the thing that they're necessarily good at, it's the mindset and how much hard work and focus and strategy that they put in place to get there. So it definitely translates over into my music. There's areas of like music where, so obviously we focus a lot on our weaknesses, but we never really focus on our strengths. So there's tons of areas of music where I'm trying to kind of improve at the moment. One area is I want to get more into like jazz guitar, because I want to learn a bit more about music theory. So I bought a massive like jazz book that's literally just down in the corner, and I've been reading. It's taken me ages to get through each page because it's so complex, but I'm forgetting that this is the most complex thing like that you can do musically, and I'm forgetting all of the good strengths that I have as a musician with my band, playing live, playing like covers and rock and pop and that kind of stuff. I kind of forget that we don't need to be amazing at every single area. The same in sport, you don't need to be amazing at every single bit of sports. When you're I kind of categorize sports into like 3 areas really. You kind of have your strength and your power, and then you have like your physique, and then you kind of have the mobility side of things as well. So there's some people like gymnasts who are amazing at the mobility side of things, but maybe their physique isn't as amazing as a bodybuilder, for example, who's then a strength isn't as good as a powerlifter. So it's all kind of different strengths. And instead of the powerlifter, instead of looking, you're a strong guy, instead of looking at mobility and thinking, oh, why can't I do the splits? Why can't I do all these like front flips and stuff like that? Instead, like channel that towards an area of your life that actually you can really benefit from, rather than just thinking all the time, why can't I do this? Think, where is my strength instead?
No, that's so true. Just because like when you have a mindset like this, I think it's easy to start to fall in the trap of like I want to do everything now just because I think I'm, you know what I mean? I know the blueprint now. I want to apply it to literally like every sport, everything in my life. Like,
Definitely.
you know, for me playing tennis, like I also, you know, I've played badminton and pickleball and ping pong, and I'm just not as good at those as I am tennis, you know? And like, just because they're all racket sports doesn't mean I have to be like great at all of them. Like, it's okay to put all of your energy into like one, you know, and then like you can kind of spread it out as like after you put enough energy into like your main thing at first, and then spread it out amongst after. So
what was that second
awesome.
You just said then? You said like 3 different sports that you play with a racket. What was the second sport you said?
The pickleball?
What the hell's that?
You've never heard of it?
I've never heard of that in my life.
Okay. It's basically mega ping pong, okay? Like, you play with a huge ping pong paddle on like a mini tennis court with a wiffle ball.
Oh my god, that's insane.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great sport just for you know, people who like don't want to play tennis because it's so much like movement. It's kind of right in the middle. It's like, it's pretty easy to learn too, the rules. So yeah, add it to your list of things you do.
I definitely will. See, you learn something new every day.
Exactly. So my next question is just about how, you know, we can prepare so much for something some days, and like when we have some big competition, like it just might not go our way. Like, it might not be because of our preparation. It's just because maybe it wasn't our day, or maybe it was our opponent who was stronger that day. Like, so how do you deal with that, like failing, you know, and losing kind of things that come up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, failing and making mistakes and things are kind of just part of life, really. It's just something that some things we just can't prepare for. We can only do so much. And what I always say is, you know, focus on what you can influence, focus on what you can change as much as you can. Like, the external environment's going to do its own kind of thing. Your opponent in a sports game, for example, you can't influence them. You know, they're going to do their own training. They're going to put their own time and effort in. You might get on the court and you just have a bad day for whatever reason. Like, you just can never influence every single variable in life. And something that I put up on my Instagram story recently is because what I found was people were really worried about the future at the moment because of the pandemic and all of that kind of stuff. And what people were saying to me is, you know, how can I stop worrying about all of this stuff? And I was like, well, to be fair, you can't stop worrying about it, but you can at least control like what you can control. And there's only so much that we can do as human beings, and the rest is kind of just left up for life to do. It's kind of the enjoyment of life is that things aren't always going to go smoothly. And if things did always go smoothly, then life would just be so boring, and we'd probably be really unhappy all the time because everyone would have the same things, we'd all achieve the same things, and there would be no drive for me to go out and hit the gym because everybody else could just go there and do it in a couple of days and we'd all have the same body. It's, you know, you have to have a drive and think, there has to be, you know, other people have to have a reason to think, I'm not going to do that because there's too much time and effort into it. And then you've got to be able to think, I want to focus myself down that route, and so I'm going to put the time and effort into it. And that's how then these other people look at that person and say, oh wow, like I really admire that because you've earned my respect because I wouldn't have done that, but you have done it. And I think that's just one of the things is unpredictabilities, they're going to come up. The sooner we can kind of accept it and we can just focus on what we need to focus on, the further in life that we're going to get.
No, that's so true. Just because, you know, you see someone who might be like perfectly in shape, right? And they didn't just like snap their fingers to become that. Like, it was because of what you've talked about throughout this video, like the consistency of showing up every single day. And like, that doesn't look glorious. You know what I mean? Like, you're not receiving like praise for that every second. Like, you have to push yourself to go and do that every single day. But when you finally reach like your end goal, then people are like, well, why can't I have that? But like, they didn't see what went on like behind the scenes to like get there. There was probably failure. There was probably days where they didn't feel like showing up, but they did. So you've got to embrace failure.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of failure in life, and you know, we're all going to make mistakes, and the more mistakes that we can make, the better we're going to get. And you know, I hope that I can make as many mistakes on doing my YouTube journey and my Instagram journey as I can, because the more that I do that, the more I make mistakes, the better that those channels and pages get.
Yeah, that's crazy to even hear you say that, because so many people are like, I don't want to fail. Like, what do you mean he wants to fail? Like, that doesn't make sense. But you know, you're going to learn something from it, and then you're going to keep growing, like, because the lesson you took away from it.
Yeah, the thing is, I won't get to the next stage in my life unless I do make a mistake now, because I can only read so many books and watch so many videos on how to do things. I need to make mistakes and then figure out myself, you know, how to improve going forward.
Exactly. There's not enough time in the day to learn everything right now, so we've got to fail along the way to figure it all out. So regarding, you know, sports and sportsmanship, how do you think learning about sportsmanship, like throughout your journey with fitness, has inspired you to kind of become a better version of yourself?
So I think, I mean, in life, you know, the people that we try to surround ourselves with are good people, kind people, people that do the right thing. And sportsmanship is literally a definition of that applied to sport. So it's, instead of knocking other people down, it's actually building other people up, but it's focusing on yourself. You're not trying to knock others down. You're focusing instead on your own lane and what you can do about yourself. And you're admiring like the dedication and focus of the person that you're competing with. So if you know, sportsmanship works both ways. If you've lost a match or you've lost a game, it's you saying to the other person, like, well done for winning. But it's also the other way around, where the person who has won is showing their respect for, you know, the tenacity, the focus of someone else who was trying to achieve the same thing that they tried to achieve. And I think if we had kind of less of the competition that we do, where, you know, competition's great, but there's a level of competition where it's actually like, no, I completely want to just destroy everything you're doing. That's not healthy. We should be supporting. I've, you know, trying to start my own page up. I wouldn't go around on other Instagram pages telling people, oh, this person's done this, or oh, this page is terrible. I would, you know, I'm actively going around saying, you guys are doing awesome, carry on doing what you're doing, because I'm focusing on what I'm doing, and I want other people to kind of share their own successes as well. I want people to get to the point that I want to get to. That's part of the fun and the journey.
No, that's so true. Like, I like how you say it goes both ways too. You know, just because like you lost, it's about, you know, showing respect to the person who won, but just because you won, like, you also need to be humble in that too. I saw this quote one time that relates to sportsmanship, like going both ways, and it was regarding like a tennis match, or it could be about any sport. Like, when the person walks off the court or the field, like, you shouldn't know if they won or if they lost. And I love that, because, you know, you're still walking with like self-confidence, either if you won it, if you lost it, you know, you're not rubbing it into the other team or your opponent, like, or you're being humble, or, you know, you're not just like crying. I mean, I've cried after I've lost, but like, I just like that quote, and I think that that's like important to share.
It's just having respect. It's having the confidence to say, you know what, I put everything that I could into this. It didn't work out how I wanted it to work out, but that's just life, and I'll go and get it next time.
Yeah, and that's how that applies to anything too. It's not just sports. So
definitely,
that's awesome. Well, those are, you know, all the questions that I had for today, but, you know, do you have a final message to the audience listening on, you know, how they can use sports and fitness to make changes to other areas of their lives?
Definitely. So, you know, just as you would in sport, if you were going to set your goals, let's say I want to run a marathon, let's say that's your goal, write down your goals and do some daily habits to get there, and realize that if you don't physically do something, then you're not going to get to what you want to achieve. So what I find a lot of the community that I'm kind of in at the moment is kind of preaching, and which I kind of agree with it to a certain extent, but then I really disagree in other areas, is that everyone's kind of like about how important self-care is. And self-care is something that's very, very important. But there's also a level of responsibility where you can't just make excuses every day. You've got to go and do something. And if you don't want to do something, if you'd rather chill out and just watch Netflix and have like self-care for the next year or so, then that's absolutely fine. No one's forcing you. But you then can't blame anybody but yourself for not getting to where you want to be. I have days where I just don't do, I have months where I've been off of YouTube and I don't do anything and I don't speak to anybody on IG, but I always know to myself that, you know what, that's my own fault. You know, if I'm going to take time off and I'm going to take time off of the grinds that I'm trying to achieve, then I can't blame anybody but myself. And we all need the rest. I needed the rest, and I've come back now to kind of work forward. But I guess the final message is just to make sure that you only ever like blame yourself on things, and in that respect, make sure that you kind of focus on what you really want in life, and then go forward and achieve it, because the years kind of just keep going quickly. And it feels like yesterday I was 18 and I'm literally turned 25 last month, and I can't believe how quickly that went. So just focus on the next 5-10 years of your life, and whatever it is you want to achieve, you will achieve it, but as long as you put in the effort and the time and have the patience to kind of see it through to the end.
That's a great final note. I know I agree with you on the self-care thing too, because if we put just too much time and that's all you're doing, then you're not like consistently taking the actions that are like gonna bring you closer to where you want to be. And like some days, you know, you might feel like a robot, or like you might feel kind of exhausted. Like my sister thinks I'm a robot, like waking up at like 5 a.m. with my morning routine every day, but you know, like that's how I'm gonna like become who I want to be. And it's tough some days, but like I'm gonna show up for myself, and I can mix in self-care. Like I can pick a day once a week for an hour, so you know it feels more rewarding then. But yeah, I think that's a great final message. So, you know, thanks so much, Lee, for joining today. I think this was a great conversation. I hope everyone out there got something out of it. I hope this was some inspiration to, you know, start working on yourself in every area of your life. It doesn't just have to be sports. It can be, you know, personal finances, self-improvement, YouTube, literally anything. So go check out Lee's channel after this video. I'll leave it linked down below. So
lovely. Thank you so much for having me on, Zoe.
Yeah, thank you for joining, Lee.